For generations, villagers on the Indonesian island of Flores told a strange story. They spoke about small creatures called abu-gogo. The name roughly means the grandmother who eats everything. According to local legends, these beings were barely a meter tall, covered in hair, with long arms and strange faces. They walked upright like humans, but spoke in rapid murmuring, sounds no one could understand. They lived in caves. They stole food from villages. Sometimes they snatched raw fish straight from cooking fires. And then, according to the stories, they vanished into the forest generations ago. For centuries the tales sounded like folklore. Every remote island has its mysterious creatures. But in 2003, deep inside a limestone chamber on Flores, archaeologists discovered something that made those stories suddenly feel less like myth. Inside Liang Bua Cave, they uncovered the skeleton of a tiny human, not a child, an adult woman, about 30 years old when she died. But she stood barely 1 meter tall. Her brain was astonishingly small, only about 400 cubic centimeters, roughly the size of a grapefruit. Yet the bones were unmistakably human. Scientists eventually named the species Homo floresiensis. The world quickly gave it another name, the Hobbit. At first the discovery seemed impossible. For decades scientists believed intelligence and human evolution followed a simple rule. Bigger brains meant more advanced behavior. A brain as small as this should belong to something primitive. But the cave told a very different story. Scattered across the floor were carefully crafted stone tools, sharp volcanic blades, cutting flakes, and points designed for butchering animals. These were not random rocks. They were shaped deliberately, following consistent patterns passed down through generations. Whoever made them was planning, designing, and hunting, which raised a troubling question. How could a creature with a brain barely larger than a chimpanzee behave like a human hunter? The environment around them makes the mystery even stranger. During the Ice Age, Flores was not a peaceful tropical island. It was a bizarre evolutionary laboratory filled with animals found nowhere else. Among them were dwarf elephants known as Stegodon, strange giant storks taller than a human, and the island's most famous predator, the massive Komodo dragon. And somehow these meter-tall humans survived among them. Bones discovered inside Liang Bua Cave show clear-cut marks where stone tools sliced through flesh. Many of those bones belonged to Stegodon, suggesting that Homo floresiensis hunted or scavenged these small elephants. It must have been a strange scene. Tiny humans moving through volcanic jungle, armed with sharp black blades, surrounding an animal many times their size. But perhaps the greatest mystery is how they arrived on Flores in the first place. The island has never been connected to mainland Asia. Even when sea levels dropped during the Ice Age, strong ocean currents kept it isolated. To reach Flores, ancient humans had to cross at least 20 kilometers of open ocean. That means the ancestors of Homo floresiensis somehow reached the island hundreds of thousands of years ago. Most scientists believe they descended from Homo erectus, the ancient human species that first spread out of Africa nearly 2 million years ago. But once a small population became trapped on Flores, evolution began to reshape them. On islands, large animals often become smaller over time. Limited food resources favor smaller bodies that require less energy to survive. This process is called island dwarfism. On Flores, it transformed elephants into miniature versions of themselves, and it transformed humans into something completely new. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the descendants of those early migrants shrank dramatically. Their bodies became smaller, their legs shortened, their brains shrank to an extraordinary degree. Yet their ability to survive did not disappear. The anatomy of Homo floresiensis reveals just how strange this evolutionary path became. Their wrists resemble those of very ancient human ancestors from nearly 2 million years ago. Their shoulders look primitive compared to modern humans. Their feet are enormous compared to their legs, so large that they likely walked with a slightly awkward gait, lifting their knees higher with each step. If you saw one moving through the forest, it probably wouldn't look quite like any human you've ever seen. And yet they were remarkably capable. Inside the cave, archaeologists found charcoal and ash layers suggesting these tiny humans may have used fire. Burned bones hint that they cooked food and possibly used flames to keep predators away. If true, that would mean a species with a brain barely 1/3 the size of ours had mastered one of the most important technologies in human evolution. Even more astonishing, stone tools found elsewhere on Flores date back 700,000 years. That suggests their ancestors arrived on the island incredibly early, and their culture, tool-making traditions passed from generation to generation, may have lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. But the real shock comes from their final chapter. The youngest fossils of Homo floresiensis date to around 50,000 years ago. That date is unsettling, because around the same time, Homo sapiens began expanding across Southeast Asia, which means when modern humans arrived in this region, the Earth may still have been home to another kind of human entirely. Imagine stepping onto the shores of Flores and discovering that deep inside the jungle lived a different humanity, smaller, stranger, but unmistakably human. We don't know if they met. The fossil record is silent on that moment. But soon after modern humans appeared in the region, the hobbits vanished. Whether it was climate change, competition, or something more direct, the last population of Homo floresiensis disappeared from the island. Yet the legends remained. Stories of the Abigogo, small cave-dwelling creatures, speaking strange sounds, stealing food, and disappearing into the forest. If even a fragment of those stories preserves a memory of reality, then the people of Flores may have carried the last echoes of another human species in their folklore. And if history had unfolded just a little differently, if one island had remained a little more isolated, somewhere in the forests of Indonesia, a meter-tall species of human might still be walking the earth today.